Hi, I'm Christina, and thank you for joining into Hands-On. And we're going to make a bracelet today, and we're going to make a necklace as well, so that you can do this at home for yourself or as presents. Right now, you're going to see the supply list for the items that we're going to make today. You're going to need chain nose pliers. You're going to need flat nose pliers. You can use round nose pliers, or I'm using a one-step looper today. You're going to need cutters, jump rings, eye pins or wire, clasps, unfinished chain. We're going to make the bracelet with an empty cup chain bracelet. You're going to need beads and crystals, and then you're also going to need crystals to fill the cup chain jewelry as well. Okay, so today we're going to start off making one of the bracelets, and basically we're going to end up, this is cup chain, an empty cup chain bracelet. This is basically, you can kind of look online for this type of item. You can fill it with whatever you want. You can fill it with crystals, you can fill it with pearls, you can fill it with any type of crystal, bead, anything that you think is gonna look nice there. Today I'm gonna be using Swarovski crystals, and they're basically rivolis, I think that's how you pronounce them. It looks kind of like a diamond. There's points on each side. They come in all different colors, all different shapes, all different sizes. The bracelet that I'm using today uses an 8mm stone. So this is the size of the crystals that we're doing. So they're 8mm. They're kind of a peach color, and you're gonna end up filling up the bracelet all the same color. For this particular project, when I first start, I'm gonna use the flat nose pliers. These are flat nose pliers. You can get them at any craft store. Most of the supplies, just about anything except for the cup chain bracelet base, you can find at any craft store and in your local craft store. It's basically, I have Sarah in the room here who's going to be reading comments as we go, so if you have any comments, let me know.
Hi guys! These look really beautiful, Christina. I'm really excited to see how you make them, because now I can have jewelry to match every outfit.
That is an addiction, and it's something that continues on all the time. And you can use them for presents or yourself. So for the bracelet, we're basically gonna end up placing the crystals within the cup chain. So this is the cup chain, and you can do it different ways. You can, for smaller items, you can use tweezers, but since this is something that fits directly in my hands, I'm just gonna use my hands for it. The goal is to basically put the crystal within the cup chain. You kind of drop it in. If it falls wrong, you can just pick it up, you can turn it over. When you get to these different sizes or different shapes, sometimes it's harder to put the crystals within the bead, so it's easy enough to just, with this size of this cup chain and this size of crystal, you're just kind of placing it within the cup chain. Once you get it within there, you're kind of looking at it from the top. You're kind of looking at it from the side to make sure that it's kind of placed where you want it to be placed. With the cup chain, basically it gets held in place by prongs, and right now all the prongs are up. If you're having a problem putting the crystal in, the prongs might be down of some sort. So if you have, for this particular one, they're up and it's easy enough to put in, so we're gonna just start closing the crystals within the bracelet. So this is placed in, and I'm gonna hold the crystal on top in place so that I can easily close in the prong. So you're gonna go to one side of the prong, and you're just gonna use the flat side of the flat nose pliers, and you're just gonna push it a little. Just push it over in a little so that it kind of cups the crystal. You're gonna go diagonal to the other side of the crystal, and you're gonna do the same thing. You don't want to close it completely in, because if you make a mistake, it's harder to open it up. Whereas if you're just close it partial way for the first time, you can easily pry some of the prongs open. I'll show you how to do that as we go a little further. Once you do the 2, you're going to continue on with a 3rd, and then you're going to go to the other side and do a 4th. Now, the prongs aren't really closed, but it's closed, not closed completely, but it's closed enough that the crystal won't fall out. At that particular time, it's in the right place, and you're just going to continue on with closing the prongs as you go a little further. And again, you don't really want to completely finish the prongs, but that's where that's the first cup in there. Then you're just going to continue on with the other ones. And this is another one where the prong is a little bit pushed in, so if I tried to just drop it, it's not going to drop in correctly. So in this instance, if it was a little further down, I would use, these are chain nose pliers. I would use that and just kind of open the prong a little bit, just so it's easier to place the crystal in. And then you can drop the crystal in. Then you're just gonna hold the crystal. Just gonna continue on all 4 sides, alternating again, until you have some of the prongs closed.
So we have some newcomers to jewelry making. Judith DeWitt's never tried this, Elsie Moyer. And so I just have a couple questions. Where do you get the Swarovski crystals?
You can actually find the Swarovski crystals you can find some types of crystals at your local craft stores. Otherwise, if you want to look specifically for a specific Swarovski crystal, you can type in the name and you can type in the type of crystal. These are called Rivoli's. I think it's R-I-V-O-L-I. And you can type in that, and it's just looking on Google or looking on any search engine and trying to find the local places where you have it, or you can order online. You can buy them on auction sites. You can buy them just about anywhere.
And the bracelet itself, you can buy there too?
The bracelet itself, you can easily find it on like auction sites, or you can find it on, when you search on a search engine. The bracelet is probably the most complicated thing that you would have to find out of this whole supply list. Everything else besides the bracelet and the crystals for the bracelet, you can find at any craft store, but those are something that you'd probably have to go online unless you live in a city that has all the different options open to you right there. Like here in New York, you can probably find a place that you can buy the cup chain, and I know you can find places that you can buy the crystals. And it doesn't have to be Swarovski crystals. They make a lot of different types of crystals, so it's just whatever your preference is. For any of the other type of beads, you can use any type of beads. It doesn't have to be crystals. It doesn't have to be clear crystals. It doesn't have to sparkle like that. It can be pearls. It can be any type of shape or size for any of the other type of items. So again, we're just going to continue on with the bracelet. And this particular bracelet has 15 cup chains. So,
do you mostly give these as gifts, or do you wear them too? Do you sell your jewelry?
I generally wear the items or use them as gifts. I started creating a business for myself. It's very new, very up and coming, in everything being open right now. So I have an Instagram. Hopefully by the end of the month, I'll have a website going where you can look and see the different options. Instagram is basically Christina and Designs. So it'd be Christina and Designs, and you can find it on Instagram, and I'm gonna have a Facebook page, and I'm gonna figure out where I'm gonna start selling the items. But in the past, I have a lot of bracelets and jewelry for myself, and then when I decide I want to make a nice gift for people, I'm able to make them gifts.
I love this one that you're making right now. It's so pretty.
You.
Yeah.
You can never have too much sparkle.
Never. And Carola Drashish says, nice job too. Everyone is
Thank you.
Concentrating very hard on how they can replicate this.
It's a little awkward, I guess, in the first shot when you're just trying to make them for the first time, but once you get going, you can do different things. You can close the prongs on the bracelet any which way you want. On some other bracelets, I've used the chain nose pliers and kind of have opened them like this and closed it, but with that, you have to be sure that you're not scratching the bottom. So you're either gonna have to put something on your pliers, or you're gonna have to put something on the bracelet so that you don't scratch. This is easy enough. They make specific tools that you can get just to close the prongs. For something like this, I found it easy enough to do with the flat nose plier, so you don't have to buy the extra tool for something like this. When you go smaller, sometimes it might be easier. When you go a lot bigger, you can go a lot easier. It might be easier with a specific tool, but for something like this with this size crystal, it's easy enough, I think, to use the flat nose pliers. We have a couple more left on the bracelet.
I have to say, you're making it look very easy. I have a feeling that if I have not tried this before, my first time isn't going to be so quick. Is that true?
I would say I would buy a couple different bracelets to practice on. It also depends on the material of the bracelet. You can get them in all different sizes, all different shapes, all different metals, all different finishes. Some of them are a lot easier to work with than others. With some other ones that I've tried, the prongs are more closed off when you're trying to start, so you'd have to open those first. Some of them are a little harder to push closed. With those, you kind of just have to be careful when you're pushing them closed, because you don't want to crack the crystal. If you're using crystals, you don't want to crack whatever you're putting in there, and you don't want to put too much pressure on the prongs. So if you're starting it off for the first time, I'd say minimum buying 3 of the bracelets.
Got it.
And then you can kind of practice. And if you are using crystals, even cracked crystals or problem crystals look beautiful, and no one's really going to notice except for you. So if it's for yourself and you're just practicing at first, you can always wear your mistakes, and most people aren't going to notice. I mean, you might, but most people wouldn't.
So Julie Gajeski says, be careful opening and closing prongs too many times because they'll break off. Have you found that is the case as well?
It is, but it also depends on the particular material of the cup chain. This particular cup chain is easy enough to work with, and it's easy enough to open and close. But I have come across some cup chains where if you're putting too much pressure on it first, you can see it cracking on the side. So for this particular one, you're gonna see, I haven't completely closed off all the cup chains, but this one I've pushed in somewhat, and you're not seeing any strain on the prong right now. If I open it, it's easier enough with the chain nose pliers. You're gonna just try to fit that within the prong and kind of pull up. And that's gonna open that cup chain to that point. So you're gonna see it open again. And for this particular cup chain, you're not seeing any strain on it because I'm not pushing or pulling really hard. Again, it just depends on the cup chain. It depends on how much pressure you're putting on it. But I would say you probably don't want to do it more than 2 or 3 times, because then you might get you might break the prongs, and you might either crack the crystal either way. So right now I've closed off all the different crystals within the bracelet. If you look on the sides of them, they're not completely closed. So you're just basically going to go over the whole thing again, closing it and kind of rolling the sides so that you have all the prongs completely closed.
Now, the reason you left them open, just to clarify, is because just in case you wanted to switch out a color or something like that?
In case you want to switch out a color, in case you crack the crystal, it's kind of precautionary. I'd rather make sure that I don't have a problem. It's harder to open all of them than it would be to just go back and close them.
It's almost like penciling in where you want to hang something or paint something before you actually do it.
Right.
Got it.
And you can kind of map out the type of bracelet that you're going to make beforehand. With the prongs completely open, you can just kind of drop the crystals in, see how you want to rearrange everything. Make your own designs. This is a solid colored bracelet, but you can do them in how you can change up crystals, you can change up shapes, you can change up. I've seen pearls, I've seen crystals, I've seen mixes of colors, shapes, sizes. As long as it's within the same, I guess, size, this being an 8mm, as long as everything's an 8mm and you're kind of closing everything, you can close it within the cup chain, you'd be okay.
I love the way this one looks, and a lot of our viewers do too. Carolyn Harrell says, hi, nice job. And Rose Zuniga says, nice, I have a lot of jewelry, but I'd like to make more. So people are really loving this.
Thank you. Like I said, I don't think you can ever have too much jewelry. I mean, others might not agree with that, but if you're making it, you get away with a lot more.
Julie Gajeski has another tip for us too. She said, I also use clear nail polish and coat inside of my tweezers and pliers to help prevent scratching.
You can, I've never tried the clear nail polish. I know you can use duct tape, you can use a few other things. As whatever, with the flat nose pliers, I think, which are these, you just have to coat it with something. So I think clear nail polish would work. I've seen a lot of different things, different people using duct tape because that stays on and that kind of protects it. You're just basically trying to protect the metal from being scratched.
Deborah Trentner is just wondering once again what the tool is called that you're using to close the prongs.
These are flat nose pliers.
Perfect.
So, I mean, it's basically just a flat nose. I mean, you can get a simple set of pliers at any craft store and they generally will have a flat nose plier and a chain nose plier, and sometimes a round tip plier and cutters. But the three basics, I think, are the chain nose and then the flat nose.
Heidi Kublitz agrees with you. She says there's always room for more jewelry.
Yay. Okay, so basically this is the bracelet, and right now it doesn't have any way to be closed, but this is all the crystals within the bracelet, and you can kind of see, if you're wondering if all the prongs are down, you can kind of rub it against your skin, you can rub it against a piece of clothing to make sure that it's not snagging on anything. And at this time, I guess we'll add in the clasps and the chain. This is the chain. We're gonna use, this is just a piece of unfinished chain. We're gonna use jump rings. And we're gonna just start connecting the chain with the jump rings. So I'm gonna use 2 of the needle nose, or the chain nose pliers. And a jump ring is basically a loop that can be opened and closed. It's not completely finished. So I find it easier using two pliers, whatever type of plier you want. I feel comfortable with these. And the easiest way I found to open jump rings is to kind of seesaw them back and forth. If you pulled them like this, if you're holding both sides and you pull them, they're gonna go out of shape. But if you kind of seesaw them back and forth like this, it's gonna keep your same shape and it's gonna be easy enough to close. So in this instance, I'm gonna seesaw, I'm gonna keep one side, I'm gonna keep it open like that. So for here, I'm gonna add a piece of unfinished chain, and then I'm gonna add the end of the bracelet. And then I'm just gonna close off. I'm gonna close off the bracelet, and now you have the extra chain that you're gonna attach the latch to. I have to grab a latch. this is a lobster clasp. This is one on a different finished bracelet that I have. And it's basically connected to another chain with a jump ring. Actually, let's just disconnect this one so we can actually show the finished bracelet. So you open and close the jump rings the same way. You just kind of seesaw them back and forth. So this is a lobster clasp, and we're going to attach it to this bracelet. So then again, we're going to take the jump ring and we're going to seesaw it open and shut. You're going to put the clasp on, then you're going to put the bracelet on, and then you're just going to close it. And jump rings, you kind of just want them to look like circles again. Once it's attached, you can just make sure you can kind of crimp them in and crimp them on the side to make sure that they're completely closed. And then that's your finished bracelet. You have the chain, you have the clasp, so that when you put it on, you can make it as short or as long as you actually want it. If I can get it on.
That's the other art, is figuring out how to put a bracelet on yourself.
There you go. So then that's basically the bracelet
I
on
love
with a little bit
it.
of chain.
It looks great.
Thank you.
And that took you literally like 15, 20 minutes to make. And you are doing step-by-step explanation. So even if you weren't doing an explanation, I have a feeling you could have banged that out pretty quickly.
It's the bigger, it depends on the size, it depends on how many, and it's harder to take off than it is to put on. There you go. It depends on how big the crystals are. Smaller crystals are harder to work with. Bigger crystals might be easier to work with, but they might be harder to hold in place. So it just depends on the type of bracelet, the shape of bracelet, and the style that you're creating. Okay. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make a bracelet. For this particular time, I'm gonna end up using just multicolor crystals. These actually aren't Swarovski crystals. These are just faceted crystals that are kind of, I'm using a shape I think called a rondelle, but to me it kind of looks like a donut shape. It's a little short. It's basically, you just got to make sure anything with a hole in it, so any type of bead that you're going to use. These particular ones are Swarovski, and these again are the same, probably can see better in a blue. These are the same shape, kind of the same size, but they're just a different type of crystal. It doesn't have to be this shape or this size. You can go any type of shape, any type of size, as long as it's within a bead. We're gonna kind of make this type of charm, I guess we're gonna call it. We're just gonna use a few different types of crystals, and we're just gonna have 2 loops on the end of each one. So the first thing I'm going to use is, this is an eye pin. It's basically, you just have an eye at one end and it's just flat on the other. If you're going to use simple plain wire, you can create loops on both sides. I'm not so great with making the eye pin holes, so you can make them yourself with the round nose pliers, or I'm using this tool called a one-step looper. It basically does the whole job for you. You put your crystals on the eye pin, so you're going to put the crystals through the hole, the eye pin through the hole, and you can put as many as you want. For this one I'll do 5. And for this tool, you're just basically, there's a hole on the side here and then there's a pin sticking out there. You're gonna put it through one side of the pin and through the hole, and then you just kind of crimp it. It cuts it, so that's the waist. And it makes the hole on the other side.
Whoa.
I'm not good at the holes. So this tool made it so that it's easy enough for me to do the holes, and you can kind of reshape, you can close it off if you need to, but that tool has made my life a lot easier, and I don't dread making the little loops anymore. So for this particular necklace, I'll make a couple of these. I'm gonna do different shapes, different sizes. So this is gonna be one where I'm just gonna put 3 crystals on.
What's your favorite part about doing this? Is it choosing the colors or seeing the finished product?
It's seeing and wearing the finished products. If I'm using them as gifts, I love showing the people how they can have something nice. I think my mom wears a lot of the things that I make for her. So it's always fun.
Yeah, it's beautiful. People are shouting out their favorite colors right now, so that's what inspired me to ask that question. And I was thinking for myself, I'm like, oh, it would be cool to use birthstones.
Yes, I like blues. Blues are my birthstone is aquamarine, so I tend to gravitate towards blues. And you can easily pick your favorite color, you can pick your birthstone, you can pick anything that makes any significance. If you see all those charms in the jewelry that has, for parents that have the birthstone of all their kids, you can make one for any person that you know that would enjoy that for all their kids.
I love that idea. Or even team colors, or for a holiday. There's so many uses for it, I feel.
Absolutely. Any special occasion, weddings, proms, anything that you want to match any specific item. For these crystals, I just bought them in a string like this, and they just came from any kind of craft store. So you can, again, you can create as many as you want on particular chains. So I'll do a couple more.
I love this comment that Julie Gajeski said. She said, it means more to have a gift made with love than store-bought anytime. I feel like that's so true.
I find it's more receptive. I find that most people like it a little bit more when I do make something for them, because it's not something that everybody has. It's something that you've made, that you've put in the time, you've put in the energy, and most people appreciate that. And I think it's something that, I guess lately everybody loves that aspect, where you're just kind of making things for people. Okay.
So Terry Lynn just wants, one more time, if you wouldn't mind sharing where you buy your supplies. She said that she's having some trouble when she's in searching right now. So what are some of the keywords that she can search for in a search engine?
Okay. So for the bracelet that I made, you're going to look for cup chain. That's going to be one word. So it's going to be cup and chain, and you're just going to look for empty, or you're going to add empty cup chain jewelry. You should be able to find bracelets or necklaces or anything else. The crystals that we're using for this particular style, I want to say are Swarovski. They're 8mm, and I think they're called SS39. They're called Rivolis. They have a point on the top and they have a point on the bottom. For the necklace that I'm gonna make, you can use basically any kind of beads. So again, these are Swarovski and these are rondelles. So like, these are the donut shapes, these are the rondelles, but you can use bicones, you can use rounds, you can use anything that you want to use. These are eye pins. You should be able to buy them just about anywhere. Jump rings and unfinished chain. Most of the stuff is easy enough to find. The materials for the cup chain bracelet are probably the hardest things that you're gonna find. But again, I'm sorry, it was empty cup chain jewelry, and then you should be able to find them whether on auction sites or other craft places.
She says thank you.
You're welcome. This is basically unfinished chain, and what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take these particular beads that I created and just make a necklace out of them. You can kind of decide how much space you want in between the crystals. For this one, I have probably about 1 foot on here. I'm just gonna kind of measure it in half, and these are cutters that I'm using, and it's just sharp enough that they're gonna cut through the particular metal. So for this, I'm just gonna grab one of the loops on the chain and I'm just gonna squeeze. And that should open up. That should open up one of the chains. And you might have to kind of open it up further, but then you have that bead is gone. Now you have 2 pieces. So from there, I'm just gonna take this longer piece and I'm just gonna kind of roughly measure it. If you know how big you want your necklace, you can use a ruler and measure out the different sizes. This I'm kind of just eyeballing to make one chain. So I'm just gonna pick different places to cut. And we're gonna open that one. And then when I'm done, I'll have about 5 different pieces of chain. I'm gonna have one more with the cutter. You're just gonna cut. You just kind of squeeze that and pull. And there you go. So then I just have a few different, I have about 5 different pieces of chain. So right now I'm just gonna connect these particular beads with the chain. And when you made the loop on the end of the little charms, if you haven't closed them off, you can kind of just, you can add the chain to the loop. So this particular loop isn't completely closed in. So you're gonna take the chain and add it there, and then you're gonna take the loop with the chain nose pliers and kind of close it in a little bit more. And so now that's not gonna move from there. And now you have a piece of chain connected to the bead. You're gonna do the same with another piece. And if it is closed off, you're just gonna swing it like you do the jump rings. You're gonna swing it out a little. You don't really wanna pull it out because you're gonna take the shape away. So you're gonna swing it and then you're gonna put the chain in. Well, maybe not. You're gonna swing it out a little more and you're gonna put the chain in. And then you're just gonna bend it back into shape. Sorry.
Now I see where you're going with this. My most, intricate necklace design was like stringing beads on a string.
Right.
So this seems very simple, but it's so pretty.
It looks, it makes it look like you're putting in a lot more effort into it than needs to be, to tell you the truth. And that's always a good thing with jewelry. We're gonna open another one, and you can kind of do anything you want with it. You can make your own specific chain with just chain and attach the latches to it. You can make a multi-strand necklace and have straight chain on 1 or 2 of them, and then add some crystals or some beads that mean something to you as an accent. You can do a lot. You have a lot of different options when you're doing it this way. So then I open that. We're gonna close that once we put the chain in. Okay. And we have this little one where that hasn't been closed off, so we'll add chain to that. Again.
Evie says she loves it. Julie says she loves this show in general. Yeah, I feel like I'm learning a lot because you can make short necklaces here, you can make longer ones, like you could add even a monogrammed bead or something, you know, like you said, something with more significance.
You can add charms, you can add beads, you can add any type of thing that you want. You're not limited to specific beads, you're not limited to chain. You're basically, your imagination makes it so that you can go wild. You can basically buy old necklaces at garage sales or flea markets of any type and change them to however you want. You can combine them together, you can just add your own little element to it. So there's really no limit to what you can do with these particular items.
What is the tool called to make the eye pins again? Maury Dickey thought that looked amazing.
This is called a one-step looper. Local craft store. Couple different sizes. This is a smaller one. This is a 1.5 millimeter. It made it so that I didn't hate making loops, to tell you the truth. So I think I had it for a while and I still hadn't tried it. But it kind of made life a little easier for me. And anything you can make your life a little easier always works.
Yeah, you don't want to take the fun out of what is a fun hobby for you.
Right. I would avoid things with loops on it because it took a lot of time and it took a lot of effort, whereas that makes it so that it's a lot easier to work with. And you can just kind of change whatever you want with it. I guess going back to buying chains and everything like that, if you find stuff at garage sales or you have stuff of your own, you can kind of just, if it has jump rings, and most things kind of do, you can just open up the jump rings.
I love this question from Laura Higgins. She said, did you take a course or are you self-taught?
It's a little bit of both. I kind of got into it because you kind of see stuff and you kind of want to, you're like, oh, is it that hard to do? And some of the stuff is kind of, it can't be that hard to do, and a lot of it is that hard to do. So I want to say I probably started out with books, just trying to close the last one, and then I have taken classes at different places, whether it's at craft shows or at schools as adult education, or you can look through YouTube videos. You can just look for your local craft fairs type thing. You can find any type of classes that you want.
That's beautiful, I just have to say. Both pieces you've done so far I think are phenomenal.
Thank you.
And we have a couple more questions from our viewers actually. Maury wants to know, do you ever solder the jump rings to make sure they don't open?
I don't. I don't solder anything. It's a lot of work and it's a lot more tools. To solder things shut, you need flames, you need metal, you need protective gear. So it gets a little bit more complicated in that aspect of the jewelry.
I'm going to shout out a couple comments from people as well. Deborah Chandler just says, very nice. Thank you so much for sharing. Tara Swanson says, beautiful. Carly Paget says, well, you're all doing really great. The chain is beautiful. Keep doing such great work. You go, girl.
Thank you. So, I mean, this is the necklace. You can make basically any other type of items with it. I had made these little beads as well. You can make these into earrings. You can make them into bracelets. You can kind of add a little ear wire to the edge, and that can be your hanging earring that matches your bracelet. Again, this particular type of bead I bought at just a craft store locally, and it comes on just kind of a wire here. These particular beads, I have different styles, and I'm using just basically, I'm basically using what amounted to, they used them in fishing stores to keep track of bait, and you just kind of screw them shut, and they're just plastic containers. You can get those at most craft stores, but this particular one, these are different Swarovski crystals, and I think these are probably 8 millimeters. And for that particular thing, depending on where you're getting them, you either buy them in small particular, at local craft stores, they're probably either on a string more like this, or they're gonna be in a little packet with about six or 8 or so. You can buy them in bigger bulk, depending on what you want. With Swarovski, you're generally buying a lot of one color unless you can find them someplace that sells them small. So this is more of a yellow color that sparkles, and then this is another blue different color. So and I just kind of keep everything separate and by color, since these are specifically the type of crystals that I have.
I have a question for you. How far does $20 get you with making stuff of this? Like, how many can you make?
You can make multiple multiple necklaces like this. You can make a few of them with $20, because for me here in New York, I want to say this chain cost me about $2.
Wow.
For the beads. You can go buy chain in most places, and it's whatever type of chain you want. It doesn't have to be sterling silver. It could be a base metal. It could be anything. The cut chain jewelry, you might be able to only make one bracelet. It depends on if you can get a kit, or if it depends on what type of crystals you're using. Let me show you this again for these bracelets. This was 8 millimeter. And I think we're almost out of time. So, oh, okay. So apparently not. So I'm gonna show you, these are 8 millimeters. I'm gonna show you, I have some samples of slightly smaller crystals. I'm gonna show you that. This is just different types of crystals, or different size crystals. So these are smaller containers. Again, I got them at a local craft store. And these are 6 millimeters. So these are a lot smaller. And these are something that you're gonna work with. It takes a lot more effort to work with these. So these are something that is a lot smaller. It's a lot harder to put them in the cup chain. So it would take a lot longer to complete. But these tend to all be Swarovski crystals, and they come in a variety of colors for every type of thing you want. You can get multicolors like this. So it just depends on kind of what you want. But again, Swarovski is a little pricier than some of the other crystals. You can get any type of crystal that you want, or any type of bead that you want. You can get plastic dollar chains somewhere. You can get kind of anything. But with these type of beads, these smaller beads, I've made bracelets, I've made necklaces, I've made, brooches. You can make rings, you can make earrings, you can kind of do anything with them. For this particular type of crystal, again, they're the points on the top and the bottom, so you're gonna have to put them in something. You're either gonna have to wrap them in something, or you're gonna have to put them in something. But for any regular type of bead, you can kind of do anything. It doesn't have to be Swarovski, it doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be anything. It's basically whatever you want. You can do cheap beads from the dollar store that kids can lose and still make something with them. Have kids put the colors together that you want, and then you can kind of help them make the loops and attach them to the items. So it can get as cheap or as expensive as you want to put it. simply. And it can always go more expensive, but you can make it to the point where it is affordable for a lot of different reasons and a lot of different people. Okay, so now we're kind of close to the end, so we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna go back to the jewelry that I made. Thank you for joining us here at Hands On, and I look forward to hearing anything about what you have to say. Thank you very much.